All right, let's talk about something that comes up in literally every English conversation, asking questions and saying no. You know, it seems simple, but it's one of those areas where it's so easy to hesitate and just freeze, wondering if you're saying it right.
So, does this feel familiar? You've got a question, you open your mouth to ask it, and then you pause, right? You start shuffling words around in your head. If that's you, I want you to know you are so not alone. This is probably one of the most common challenges for English learners.
So why is it so tricky anyway? Well, that little moment of hesitation isn't random. It actually comes from a few very specific points of confusion that can trip up anyone. But the good news is, we're going to untangle all of that today.
I mean, these are the big three, aren't they? First, you're trying to figure out the word order. Then, you're trying to remember the rule for do, does, or did. And on top of all of that, you're worried about how you sound. You don't want to come across as rude. That is a lot to juggle in a split second.
But here is the best part, and this is such a game changer. Forming questions and negatives in English is basically mechanical. It's not about some special feeling for the language, it's a system. A simple, repeatable pattern you can use over and over again without having to guess.
And the secret to unlocking that whole system comes down to one little concept: helper verbs. Seriously, once you get the hang of this one idea, everything else just clicks into place, and you'll find that confidence you've been looking for.
So what are these things? Well, they're exactly what they sound like. They help you build the sentence. And for what we're doing, we only need to focus on the three big ones: do, does, and did. Just think of them as the construction workers of your sentence. They do all the heavy lifting for you.
Okay, let's get into the how-to. We're going to look at the patterns, but don't think of them as boring grammar rules. Think of them more like simple recipes you can follow to cook up a perfect sentence every single time.
Here it is, the recipe for a great question. It's just 3 easy steps. 1, you start with your helper verb, do, does, or did. 2, add your subject, who you're talking about. And 3, you finish with the main verb, but, and this is key, in its simplest, most basic form. That's the whole recipe.
Let's see how it works. Does she need help? See, it follows the recipe perfectly. Helper verb, does. Subject, she. And the base verb, need. It's clean, it's simple, and you know what? It's always going to be correct.
Now this is where you can really see the power of the system. Look how a basic statement like, you work here, changes. To make it a question, boom, just pop do at the front. To make it negative, you just slide in do not. The rest of the sentence barely even moves. It's the same reliable pattern every single time. Okay, this is so important. If you only remember one thing from this whole explainer, let it be this. When you use a helper verb, do, does, or did, the main verb after it always stays in its basic, simple form. No S, no past tense ending. Why? Because the helper verb is already doing all that work for you.
So knowing the pattern is half the battle. Now let's talk about a few common trip-ups, but let's not call them mistakes. Let's call them pro tips, little things you can watch out for that will make your English sound that much sharper.
Here's pro tip number 1, and it's a big one. The word did already tells us we're talking about the past, so you don't need to say the past tense again. It's not did you finished, it's did you finish. Let did do its job and keep the next verb simple.
And here's another classic. In English, you can't just stick not by itself to make something negative. It needs a partner. It needs that helper verb. So it's never I not understand. It's I do not understand. That little do is absolutely essential. Okay, so we've nailed being correct. That's awesome. But there's another layer to this, right? And that's sounding natural and polite, which is just as important, especially at work or in more formal settings. And this slide just shows it perfectly. Give me the report is grammatically correct, sure, but it sounds like an order. It's very direct. But look at the difference when you just change it to, could you send me the report? The whole feeling changes. It's not a demand anymore, it's a respectful request.
So here are a few simple phrases you can just add to your toolkit, starting your questions with can you, could you, or the super polite would you mind is such an easy way to make sure you always come across as professional and considerate.
So let's just pull this all together. What can you do right now? You can use that simple recipe to ask clear, confident questions. You have the formula to make negative sentences correctly every time. And you've got the tools to adjust your tone so you sound natural and polite. You've got this.
And I just want to leave you with this idea because it really sums it all up. You do not need complicated grammar. You need clear patterns. Forget trying to memorize 1,000 confusing rules. Just master these simple, clear patterns, and you will have mastered a massive piece of everyday English.